at one point maybe really early, at another point early in the second round. And then here it comes in the fifth round finally. Shedeur Sanders, Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, set a Colorado record with 37 touchdown passes. Helped revitalize that Colorado program along with Travis Hunter.
Draw me up your favorite pass play. I don't care what personnel, as detailed as you can be.
Got you.
And we are all true freshman quarterbacks in your quarterback room, and you are teaching it to us.
On what is potentially the biggest snub in NFL draft history, the truth behind Shedeur Sanders' draft slide has finally been exposed.
Shedeur not going in the second round, incredibly surprising. Not going in the third round,
unprecedented slide happened.
Not going in the fourth round, inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivably wrong.
Inconceivable.
We've literally never seen a player who was at one point the consensus #2 quarterback, a surefire first round pick, fall all the way out of the first 4 rounds of the draft.
Shedeur slipped from a potential first round pick to a 5th round pick, getting passed on by teams like the Giants, Saints, and the Raiders. There was such shock and amazement that a potential and confident player in Shedeur Sanders was getting snubbed in this manner. Aside the obvious surprising effect the whole Shedeur draft story had in the NFL space, and even in history, the biggest question on the minds of each NFL fan is, what exactly happened?
Primetime Deion Sanders is not blameless here. I'm going to say what I have to say, knowing that both of them have their hands at least a little bit dirty in all of this. But if you're the National Football League, okay, clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion. Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft, and 32 teams passed on him, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times they passed on him? How the hell does that happen? 4 rounds. It doesn't happen to a quarterback. We've never seen anything like this before. We've seen guys drop because of injuries. We've seen guys drop because of off-field issues, but we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that.
Oh, well, now that the draft has ended and Shedeur ending as the 144th pick and drafted to the Cleveland Browns, it's kind of clear the reasons he got snubbed.
That's the plan. If that's not what you're trying to do, don't get me. If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't get me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick him.
One of the reasons Shedeur got snubbed is definitely not concerning what he can do on the field. However, there were mostly off-field conditions and comments.
But ultimately, we got to get to Shedeur Sanders himself, because I spoke to some executives giving me some background because they didn't like some of the things that they were seeing. And when they talked about it, they said stuff like him sending out tweets tagged with #legendary. They talked about him appearing to have more of an interest in his own brand, and that he thinks about that more than he thinks about the team or the league. They talked about if he was more buttoned up and all about ball and team as opposed to himself, he would have fallen no later than number 21 in the draft to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Instead, he fell to 144, and they call it a minimum of a $30 million mistake. That's what they said. They also pointed out how it was the perfect year to come out in the quarterback class because it's the lightest, weakest quarterback class in a long time. So a late 1 pick could easily turn into a top 10 because of position and need. But that didn't happen with him because of his bravado, his brand, his swagger, etc.
Shedeur's off-field actions and comments high-key posed a big problem to him, with some anonymous coaches and personnel deeming him uncoachable, and that he felt was too big for most teams. Which most teams quoting, he made teams feel small.
People said that Shedeur was trying to dictate how he wanted things to go and made them feel small, even at the pro day. Throughout the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go, rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. And there were a bunch of opportunities missed at the various checkpoints through that pre-draft process.
Considering Shedeur's past interviews, Shedeur did say some pretty puffed up things, like openly acting selective of teams that should go after him.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick him.
To most fans, Shedeur comes off to them as a confident and secure person whose confidence can seemingly come off as proud and arrogant. Although many fans and pundits of Shedeur might disagree with the notion that Shedeur is cocky, however, most teams see a different image of Shedeur, an image that is full of itself and self-centered.
What was the image that we saw of Shedeur Sanders on draft day? He built his own custom branded room for draft day. Not sitting with his family. It's legendary. It was pasted on the walls. It was pasted everywhere. So that kind of fills into, he's entitled, he's full of himself. Not exactly a great image. Why? It was a shock. Where Cam Ward, no scrutiny. No scrutiny. There was no controversy surrounding the Cam Ward pick. It was signed, sealed, and delivered months ago. It's a humble thing. That's really all. I think it narrows it down to way too many questions about his performance, about his intangibles, about his leadership ability, about his accuracy was always great, but his arm strength, all of those were question marks. And then I'll add on top of the fact that the image that you saw on draft day was his own branded room. Not like a living room. No, he built the room, pasted his brand everywhere. It was all about him. That was the thing. It's all about him, not about the future of the team. We saw players, well, the cornerback that got drafted by the Bills, he shook hands, high-five, dapped up every single pick before him. Every single one. He got picked at the 30th overall pick. He shook hands with nearly 30, but not everybody was at the combine, or at the draft, rather. But he shook hands with damn near everybody who was there. So it's about being humble. It's about the image you put on yourself. Apparently, teams don't like people who presume that they're full of themselves and entitled, and we just saw it now with Shedeur Sanders not going in the first one.
While all of these are part of the full picture as to the Shedeur slide story, there are other stories of Shedeur putting up a horrible, horrible performance during his interview with the GMs. As per multiple sources, including The Athletic, reported that his interviews were unprepared, entitled, and inflexible. A nameless NFL assistant coach describes the interview as the worst he had ever seen in all his life. With the amount of details that kept coming out, everyone is asking for footage from Shedeur's interviews with the teams. Tweets like these are pretty much all over social media, even though Shedeur claims in interviews that his interviews, especially the one with the Giants, went cool.
I know this week there was a lot of buzz around, the Giants workout, and there's a few quarterbacks that went out there to New York.
The visit was cool. Everything was good about it. All it is just college visits, bro. Like that's all it is, and just understanding personality. That's all top 30 visits is.
It most definitely was the opposite, as McShay shared details about Shedeur's unprofessional conduct during an interview with Coach Dable.
Was there any breaking news?
Right.
Nothing breaking, but I'm starting. I read a couple people are like, Shedeur is in play at number 3. Shedeur's not in play at 3. Shedeur's not in play with the New York Giants, as far as I'm told. Shedeur didn't have a great interview with Brian Dable in a private visit. An install package came in. The preparation wasn't there for it. Got called out on it. Didn't like that. Brian didn't appreciate him not liking it. I've said this before, and it started at the Combine, and a couple days after the Combine, I don't like saying report. Like, we don't report anything. I shared information that I got that I know if I'm getting it, that information people that are in this business that are really great at their job and talking to a lot of the same people I'm talking to, and probably more. I know more. I was surprised it wasn't being talked about, that Shedeur Sanders I told you, if you've been following the show from the beginning, I told you there were two personnel people that I spoke to who were in the room during interviews, which means they're key parts of the organization. Let's leave it at that. Two teams drafting in the top 10 with quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh, just felt like the phrase I've been using, and I think it aptly describes it. We didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him.
Now, QB interviews with Dable can be real tough. In case you're wondering, here's how a typical meeting looks.
Draw me up your favorite pass play. I don't care what personnel, as detailed as you can be.
Got you.
And we are all true freshman quarterbacks in your quarterback room, and you are teaching it to us.
This was a big staple in our offense.
Okay.
Just based off the athletes that we had.
Was that Neighbors?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite route to throw in this one?
Yeah, this one.
That one?
Sure. For sure.
Why do you like that one?
I love when teams try to go man and try to
Hell yeah.
up.
That's right.
Gun that son of a bitch. Empty play, huh?
Starts and empty.
Okay. And now you're homing it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Ying and then homing it.
JJ, so is this signaled to you, or do you call it in the huddle?
Huddle.
I'd change that shit and give you one simple word. That's a long ass. I don't know how the hell you get that all that out.
Right there.
Yeah. Coach Harbaugh loved it that way.
Hey, Jay, erase that Z, make him the F. Erase the X and make him the Z. Erase the W, make him the X. Erase the T and make him the H. Ready?
Yep.
Gun trolley right, 64 house X in. Give it back to me. Nope, don't look at it.
Oh, you want me?
Give it back to me how we call it.
The whole play?
Yeah.
Gun trolley right, house F in.
Okay, X in.
X in.
That's okay. And then if it's cover one, what do we want you to do? Probably.
Throw a touchdown.
All right, I like that answer. Okay.
Gun dolphin right.
Gun dolphin right, 72, tundra, float, H angle.
Gun dolphin right, 72. Tundra, float, H angle.
Yeah, so tundra stands for what?
200s.
200s, and what does float stand for?
It's got the corner of the owl. Kind of
flag. We call it a flag,
Flag.
so
Okay.
I mean, we end up saying corner flag, but it's
Flag
flag.
with the
So
owl,
flag,
and
and
then
the
big
angle
angle.
is an angle. You got me on that?
Easy stuff.
Then you use Rita to the right, Linda to the left. It was a flip formation. Good?
Rita to the right, Linda to the left.
72, 5-man protection, slide to the will. So if the strength of the formation is right, what formation is that again?
Yeah, gun dolphin right.
Yeah, right. He's there. The will's over there. The line would slide there. We'd say 72 Rita.
72 Rita. Gotcha.
So let's say this before you go to the next one. You have one play that you can run, pass play, and you have to run that play anytime you want to run a pass in a game. So if there's 70 plays in a game and there's 45 passes, you have to run this one play every time. You got it in your head? You know the play you want?
Yeah, let's do it.
Draw it up.
Also, there are reports that Shedeur didn't just only fumble the meetings with the Giants, he also underperformed in meeting other organizations, at least 3 others.
Shedeur already had, because of his size, because of his lack of arm strength, because of his lack of mobility, already had a pool that was smaller than other guys like Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe. He already had this shrunk pool, okay? But then he went and turned off some teams with his attitude. And then I told you recently, there's I have been told by 2 different sources that the back and forth with an install package with the New York Giants and Brian Dable, and so it did not go smoothly. And I don't need to give any more details. So now that's a 3rd organization that I'm aware of. I don't know if there are any others.
An anonymous shared more on the reasons that most teams backed off of Shedeur after the interviews. So entitled. He makes you feel small. He blames teammates. Wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. Horrible body language. McShay said he knew 2 personal people that were members of quarterback-needy teams picking in the top 10 of the draft order that were in the rooms when Shedeur was interviewed. McShay said that these interviews weren't disastrous, but he was told they simply did not go well. Those personnel told McShay they didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared about what they thought of him.
I was surprised it wasn't being talked about, that Shedeur Sanders... I told you, if you've been following the show from the beginning, I told you there were 2 personnel people that I spoke to who were in the room during interviews, which means they're key parts of the organization. Let's leave it at that. 2 teams drafting in the top 10 with quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh, just felt like the phrase I've been using, and I think it aptly describes it. we didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him.
Back in March, McShay shared more on how unprofessional and unserious Shedeur took the interviews he attended.
The two people that I spoke to were in meetings and had these individual meetings that I just laid out to you, what they are, who's in there, and why they're important. Teams in the top 10 drafting that need a quarterback. The two people that I spoke to in these positions left the meeting feeling like Shedeur Sanders was not overly concerned with what they thought of him. They had a 15-minute meeting with him, and when they were done, they both said in different ways, different words, that they did not feel like Shedeur Sanders cared all that much about what that organization thought of him. Fascinating, right?
Right, and that's not said in any kind of a positive light, correctly? It wasn't like they came in there and he knew who he was and he wasn't concerned about impressing us. It's more of a negative tone, the way you're saying that, right? You're saying it in a way that he did not come in with, ready to impress, ready to show us what kind of a young man he is, what kind of a leader he can be, all of the positive things. That's what you're saying, correct?
This was not okay, I'll make a joke in a second. But all right, so let's go through this in the right order. A couple of the quotes that I put in there. One said that it wasn't a professional approach. One person that I talked to said the best way I can describe it is it just wasn't it wasn't a professional approach. Shedeur Sanders did not take a professional approach to this interview. The other person I talked to said he wasn't taking it seriously at all. I didn't get the sense that he was taking it seriously. So when you hear it wasn't a professional approach and you hear he wasn't taking it all that seriously, that's not the interview that you're it's not the response you're looking for from a potential suitor, from somewhere you plan to go play. Now, I think it's also important, because I'm sure people pull clips and have all sorts of things to say. It's very important, and hear me when I say this. There was no bad behavior. There was nothing disrespectful said or done. There was no kind of altercation. And it wasn't like Good Will Hunting when Ben Affleck went in for Matt Damon and put his feet up on the desk and yelled, "Retainer! Retainer!" Like, it wasn't that. So I'm not trying to overblow this to try to get clicks and people get, this is not a viral moment. I don't care about the attention this gets. It's just our job to relay the information and the intel that we're getting from people that are important and make decisions or part of the decision process from the teams that are looking to draft a quarterback and have a high draft pick.
Well, fingers have been pointing regarding Shedeur's unexpected NFL slide, and one of the fingers been pointing towards his dad, Deion Sanders. Way before the draft, Deion was quite involved in the plans of his son. I mean, it's understandable he would be. However, along the line, he did make some really questionable comments.
Where do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
Top 4.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Anywhere from 1 through 4. One of them is going to be 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be 1.
Speak it into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. Now, all this is subjective because I know where I want them to go. And let's not forget Shallow, okay? But I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't gonna happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's gonna be it's gonna be an Eli.
Publicly saying he was influencing where his son ended up wasn't a great choice.
I spoke last night with one general manager who is considering taking Shedeur Sanders today. He pointed back all the way to March 2024 and something that Shedeur's father, Deion Sanders, said on a podcast talking about both Shedeur and Travis Hunter, saying that if they are drafted by a team that they don't want to go to, he's going to step in and pull an Eli, meaning force those players to not actually go to that team and try to get them traded. Throughout the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. And there were a bunch of opportunities missed at the various checkpoints through that pre-draft process. Go all the way back to All-Star season. Instead of going to the Senior Bowl, he went to the East-West Shrine Bowl in his backyard in Dallas.
Deion recently came out contradicting himself, claiming he never got involved in deciding where Shedeur ended up. All of these have been noticed by many teams who don't want extra with Deion, but they can't avoid it if they bring in Shedeur. The Athletic reported that the Deion baggage was a real fear for teams, and many have likened the Shedeur Sanders situation to the Eli Manning situation, with Deion openly calling it the Eli situation.
It's gonna be it's gonna be an Eli.
For those that don't exactly remember, just like Deion, Archie Manning, a former NFL player, leveraged on his influence and controlled Eli's final draft destination. Well, most people are wondering, if no one saw a problem with Archie doing it, then why is there an uproar now that it's Deion? Well, if anything, Archie's control was quite discreet compared to Deion's comments and overall antics.
They don't want to have a quarterback coming in and they got to worry about his dad making noise about what they're doing, how they're doing it, how effective they are or are not.
Right.
All of those things come into play, and then ultimately, you know, you're an executive and you've got chosen a coach, but the audience is clamoring for dad to come coach his son and all of this other stuff. All of those things are things that an executive or an ownership group is going to be worried about because they're about having control over their own product. Where Prime is not blameless is that he did initially state he wanted some say in terms of where his son was going to go. That if he didn't like the situation his son was in, he was going to pull him up out of there. Stuff like that. On the NFL level, can't do that. And even though it has nothing to do with what I'm about to bring up, it's almost tantamount to Colin Kaepernick.
Even aside the Deion situation and poor interviews with teams like Giants and potentially Saints, some teams, aside from the Browns where Shedeur is now drafted, were ready to swoop in and get Shedeur. One of such teams were the Raiders. However, it is rumored that Shedeur's long-term mentor, Tom Brady, told the Raiders not to.
Hey, Tom Brady, let's have a conversation, Tom Brady. I knew this day was coming, boy. I knew this day was coming. We knew everything about you, Tom Brady, since I was in middle school. We knew everything when Bledsoe got injured, you became the quarterback. And I seen how the NFL protected you. The NFL lifted you up. Now, you are one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time with help by the league. We remember that fumble when Woodson did it, and everybody knew it was a fumble, and nobody said a word when you got protected by the league because you're part of the Mayo community. Let's talk about it. Shout out to Skip Bayless for telling the truth. Skip Bayless called out Tom Brady and said Tom Brady basically sabotaged Shedeur. Tom Brady ain't just no regular dude part of the Raiders. He's one of the minority owners. Forget about the minority owners. You got cachet, boy. You're Tom Brady.
Skip Bayless exposed it in a post he made on X, where he made it clear Tom Brady was the reason the Raiders passed on Shedeur. While it's not entirely fair to just assume things, however, considering Shedeur's relationship with Tom Brady.
Working with Tom, it was just talking to him and understanding, okay, how to improve each week. He texted me after the game, don't be satisfied. Like, it's cool. So it was cool hearing from him, knowing he's still watching and stuff like that. But just working with him, it really helped me just understand, don't focus on the good things. We did that. That's night and day. We're going to do that regardless. Focus on the bad things. Focus on the things that we wasn't able to do at a high level. So improve that, then you got a full armor everywhere. But if you just focus on the good, the things in the light, knowing, okay, Dylan had a lot of receiving yards, but it's okay, Dylan, on this one route, you gotta make this decision. So it's just really just like highlighting the bad things that we did and watching that over and over and over and giving us that bad feeling like we can't make that same mistake.
The Las Vegas Raiders, where Tom Brady is a minority owner and the team needed a quarterback, passed on drafting Shedeur Sanders 3 times in the 2025 NFL Draft, which was surprising enough to raise questions. When combined with Skip Bayless's claims that Brady told the Raiders not to draft Shedeur, it sparked speculation about whether Brady influenced the decision. Well, Shedeur is finally at the Cleveland Browns, and everyone is quite interested to see how he handles the challenge. But in the meantime, to get more updates and insights into what happens behind the scenes, do well to like and subscribe for more videos like these.